Welcome everyone. Today I have a new Path of Exile Infinite Summon Raging Spirit Theory Crafter Guide. Now in this video, we're looking to solve the potential links and also chains of skills for this particular setup, and what are the concepts, what are the triggers, and what are the rotation for those skills. We're also looking to solve the potential passive knots that we can go with this particular setup, and how can this allow us to do more damage and also even higher fire damage. We'll also go through some of the potential Ascension classes for this particular build, including the Infernalist and also the German Legionnaire. Now, as you guys can see the notes behind me, we're learning this particular Raging Fire Spirit from this particular Chinese content creator Evil Cat with his 2-cat PoE build. And here you can see his Chinese version of the translation, should you guys want to have a look. And he has explained his concept and also notes in Chinese, which I wanted to translate for you guys to make things more clear and also easier to understand in English. So a big thank you to our Chinese content creator Evil Cat for sharing his concept, and we'll go through his notes and also we'll keep up with the update for this version as we come close to the launch of the early access. Now briefly going through some of the highlights for this build. This build is focusing on the concept of Raging Spirits, and this can be used for summoners or spellcasters. We'll be using multiple trigger gems that auto-cast spells upon igniting and also when minions are dying. And this allows us to gain additional mana and also auto-cast multiple fire spells, which in return will auto-cast Flame Spirit and also ignite enemies, trigger more minions to die, and repeat this whole process for potentially infinite rotation and also gaining additional mana and also damage in the process. Now, the content creator Devil Cat has mentioned that this might not be just a summoner's build, this could be a really good mage or spellcaster setup dealing a lot of additional flame damage. And of course guys, because the early access is not fully released yet, there is an important warning, because during the theory crafting of this build, Devil Cat has mentioned that cast on minion death, we're not sure how powerful this can be for the trigger gems we're using. Because this skill has the lowest reservation of 30 spirit, this can be a very broken or very good spell, or this can be a not so good spell. It really depends on how much spirit we'll be gaining for each of the minion death. And as long as we're getting enough spirits, this can be a very powerful build with the right setup and also rotation. So coming over to this particular website shared by Devil Cat. So this is pathofexile2skills.com. And you can see that it is possible for us to start theory crafting certain builds, and you can search for different skills and also different gems that is available in Path of Exile 2. So what we do now is let's have a look at some of the important skill chains and so links for this particular concept. Now, the first skill we look at is going to be Ember Frostblade. So Devil Cat has mentioned that looking at some of the other content creator streams, he noticed that this spell can be potentially great. So let's have a look at a short clip from Septemtrium over here about this particular flame spell or fire spell.
I kind of wish I went into fire, because some of these fire skills they're beautiful and really cool. I'll turn it up a little bit.
So this particular fire spell will allow us to conjure additional ember spirits, and those embers can be fired towards enemies.
Good for you.
And as we can watch the demonstration over here, those embers can be accumulated and then fired upon enemies. We're using this for additional ways of summoning raging spirits, and this can also provide us with additional ignite for our current setup. And as you guys can see in the skill combination, Ember Frostblade is added towards with faster casting and also with spell echo, so we can cast more of this spell. And you can see this is the summary of the first section of the spell. So the next spell we'll be looking at is going to be Cast on Ignite. And let's have a look over here. So when enemies are ignited, you'll be gaining additional spirit. The reservation of this spell is 60, and we'll be casting Auto on Ignite with Fireball. Now we'll be combining Fireball with Volley and also Chain, so we can trigger multiple Fireballs and also additional projectiles. This again is focused on us casting more Raging Spirit by casting fire spells. Now as we cast additional fire spells, we'll be summoning additional Raging Spirit. The Theory Crafter build is combining this with minion instep ability, so we can be sacrificing minions and allow them to deal additional damage. We'll be having Minion Mastery for higher minion skill ranks. Additionally, with Minion Pack to allow us to deal more damage, and with Essence Harvest, so as our Fire Spirit dies, we'll be gaining additional mana. So the focus is as we are casting fire spells, we're summoning additional Raging Spirits. and in return this will help us to burn and also ignite enemies. And finally, of course, the full rotation involves our minions dying, so cast on minion death will be essential over here, and here we're combining this one with auto casting Firestorm. The content creator DevilCat has mentioned that it is possible to use a different spell other than Firestorm that deals a lot of fire damage, but at the moment he thinks this may be a good spell in combination with Fire Mastery and also with Fire Penetration. So what you are looking at is we're casting Ember Phelps Blade with very fast casting speed with additional casting, and as we cast those spells we'll be summoning Raging Spirits and also igniting enemies. As enemies are ignited, we'll be auto casting lots of fireballs. This will in return allows us to summon more Raging Spirit that will be dying. As they die, we gain more mana, and together as we gain more mana, minions are dying, we're casting more spells with Firestorm with higher damage. Now the build does have a variety of supporting gems that is flexible that we can adjust. Over here, DevilCat added with Menace and also Arctic Armor and also Magna Barrier. As we're gonna see on the later part, there are also potentials to add other spells and also other combinations for this particular setup. So to summarize the first part of this build, we're aiming towards in summoning more Fire Spirit, burning enemies or igniting them, and then in return casting a lot of fire spells. And the goal for this build, the content creator DevilCat has mentioned, is not to deal the highest damage with your Raging Spirit, but rather this is more utility based with continuously summons and also ignite and gaining us additional mana. And as we gain additional mana, there are some notable passives that we can look into, like Mind Over Matter, which can allow us to take damage with mana, and then we also have Enriched Battery, which allows us to convert additional energy shield into mana. Our goal is to start using mana to gain additional damage. And one of the ways we can gain additional damage is to convert all our source of damage into fire damage with Avatar Fire. DevilCat has mentioned there is possibly an interesting interaction with the new Archmage gem. So notice that this particular gem will provide us with additional lightning damage per 100 maximum mana. And over here, if no, you guys can't read the Chinese. So here he has Theory Crafter with every 100 of mana, you're getting 5% lightning damage. Now that's Theory Craft, you have 1000 mana, and all of a sudden you're gaining, 50% additional lightning damage. And this can then be converted into additional fire damage with Avatar Fire. And those are some of the Theory Crafter concepts in combination with a passive skill tree. Now additionally, it is possible for us to consider using Infernal Legion gem with the minions, and this can be combined with a Raging Spirit. But this is to be tested whether this gem is better than some of the existing usage of those gems at the moment. Now additionally, there are also some passive skill tree nodes we can look into, like having additional chance for additional spells to fire additional projectiles, and also Sigil of Fire, which allows us to deal additional damage against ignite enemies. So at this moment, we can also consider the possibility of Ascension classes. DevilCat has mentioned that this build doesn't require us to have a particular Ascension class, but he has highlighted 2 of the possible Ascension class that can benefit from this Raging Spirit setup. So one of the first Ascension class is definitely going to be Infernalist. The Infernalist will have an innate ability to allow you and also your minions to set enemies on Ignite. And while enemies are ignited, your cast on Ignite skill triggers will trigger automatically, and this can be a great speedy rotation for the whole process. So Infernalist is definitely something we want to consider for this particular build. And possibly we can look into additionally turning our mana into Maximal Infernal Flame. Now we're not sure how the interaction will work, and we don't want to overcast our spells with Infernal Flames. But if possible, if we can use this in combination with Mind Over Matter, so as we take damage, mana on Infernal Flame goes lower, right? And as we lower our mana, we can then cast additional spells. So taking damage becomes something positive. Now again, this is a Theory Crafter part to turn us into a tanky mana battery. And this is quite an interesting concept. The second Ascension class we can look into for this build is the German Legionnaire. So having additional skill slots and also additional skill quality, additional skill benefit, and also abilities to use any of the skills without restrictions, the Geomer Legionnaire can be very powerful with any of the build, and this is one of the build, right? So you can have additional combination of fire spells auto-casted, you have higher quality, and all your gems can be unrestricted by your attributes. So those are some of the concept and also theory crafted build coming from Devil Cat. Now before we finish the video, I do want to remind our content creator has mentioned that this is a theory crafted build. We're waiting for more information for Path of Exile Early Access, and likely he will be fine-tuning this build, and I'll keep you guys updated. Because personally I want to play a Summoners build, and this is the first build I have looked into. I'll be looking into other potential builds for you guys as we come closer to the launch. So this way, at least we have some options and also have a good concept of mind where we want to go with the skills and also where we can go with some of the passive nodes to gain additional benefit for our class and also our build. Now before we finish, if you guys haven't subscribed, this is a really good time to do so because I'll be looking into the latest Path of Exile 2 news on different communities and also on our official forum, official webpage. I'll also be looking into the best build for each of the class as the meta develops with the Chinese and also the English community. So stay tuned for the latest update and also guides for Path of Exile 2. And of course, this is gonna be a big month for us. And I'll try to bring you guys all of the latest content and also guides for Path of Exile 2 to come.